why this talk, why we started this in the first place, and what today is all about. It is important that we introduce ourselves to those of you who are not part of our cohort, because it is something that we have started for the very first time, and some kind of context or background is necessary. So, as with all stories, our childhood stories always started with once upon a time, and so will I. So, once upon a time, when the world shut down because of a fearsome virus, human beings retreated into their cubby holes to hibernate for better times. But there were a group of people spread all around India, from farthest Assam to Tamil Nadu, from Maharashtra to Kolkata, from Rajasthan to Punjab. A group of people decided that there is no waiting for good times. Good times don't happen to us. There is no fairy godmother that blesses us with a pumpkin chariot and a glass slipper. That doesn't happen anymore. Good times are what we make of it. We are the creators of our own good times. And therefore, these group of people, there is something always a little more special about the very first batch. So all of us here, in IIMC EdLeap, and I'm going to tell you in a moment what that is, we decided that we create our own good times. And therefore, we decided that we are going to invest in ourselves, invest in educating ourselves. And we went forward and enrolled for the very first Education Leaders Management Program, started by IIMC, a premier management institution that has been at the forefront of creating innovative programs like this. I should repeat this perhaps, that many of us involved with education have long been searching for a program like this, which understands that principals, school leaders, management, edtech people, and all those connected to education are also in a way managing their own businesses, being CEOs of their companies, if you so will. And there was an urgent need to give us that training, that theoretical, conceptual training, partnered with the huge amount of experience that we already had, which would make us formidable forces of change in the education sphere of our country and even beyond. And thereby, IIMC started this management program for education leaders from far and wide. 40 of us joined this program. First one, we didn't know what it would be like. And we ended up learning a lot. Of course, that was the expectation. But even more so, we ended up finding our own tribe. Why so? Because all of us in the very first batch of the IIMC-led EdLeap program have some common traits. We are by nature entrepreneurial. I would like to think of it as that way, because we like taking risks. We did take a risk by enrolling, because this was an unknown. We do not believe in resting on our laurels. We believe in moving forward and doing positive stuff. We are collectively extremely passionate. And when we get going, there's no stopping us. So with that kind of DNA, it was but obvious that we couldn't let our education stop the day we got our certificates from IIMC. We actually started that. And we decided that our tribe, because we had finally found each other from the farthest corners of the country, we would get together and do something positive that would lead to a wave of change across our country and maybe even across the world. And therefore, today is a very, very special day. today is the start of that positive action. LuminatEd is a combo word. It's a word which is a combination of luminate and education. Luminate meaning light, and education, of course, everyone knows what it is. And the combination of it hopefully conveys our collective spirit that we are here to share our light with the world. And we do hope that the world will open its arms and welcome us with that light, so that collectively we can move forward and create a beautiful world for our future generations. So that is the meaning of the word LuminatEd. LuminatEd is the name for our homegrown TED Talk, if you would so term it, but with a difference. We will focus on ideas. We will take risks. We will not shy away from discussing things which matter. We will share best practices, of course, but also head-on tackle the issues which we feel are important for our education system. With that background, I would like Mitra to kindly introduce to everybody here our professor who's here with us, give us a little background, and maybe ask him to share some words of encouragement for us.
Well, yes, if we are here today, we are because of definitely one person whose significant ideas motivated us, and that's our program director, Professor Vipul Mathur, Professor IMC, and although he did take up the classes of behavioral economics, a part of that, a few lectures of that during our campus visit, but I'm sure our entire cohort will join me in appreciating the kind of pivotal role he played, both he and Pragya ma'am played, in guiding us and making themselves available for every kind of advice, with every kind of feedback. I think we could not have had better program directors than them. So therefore, we cannot start LuminatEd without hearing from you, Professor Mathur. Professor Mathur, a few words from you.
Hi, Mitra. Thank you for introducing so kindly. I'm actually on the road. I wasn't expecting that I will get a say in today's talk, but thank you so much for organizing this. And I think it's a wonderful initiative. And Joita very rightly pointed out that one common trait that you all share is perhaps this entrepreneurial DNA. And the first batch is always special. You self-select yourself into this unknown territory. You take a leap of faith and you trust us. So, and that's great. And I think we should take this forward. We should really, take this series of talks forward and become the voice of education in the country. And, just all the best for that. And I look forward to this talk and many more to come. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So Joita, I think the stage is set for Dushyant and you to enchant the audience today.
Thank you so much, Mitra. Before we dive headlong into the topic at hand that we are supposed to discuss today, let me also apprise the audience of something that we will lead up to. So we will have a series of talks right up to January. And in January, we hope to host in IMC a unique education conference by educators, for educators, without any business angle to it, without any marketing or sales attached to the education conference as it usually is. It will solely be a conference which will focus on the problems, the issues, also the joys and the light that is there in our education system. And hopefully every year that conference will become a fountain of ideas, which we will be able to spread to the furthest corners of the world. So with that hope in mind, and with a huge round of applause. If you can unmute and please do applaud. We will welcome our speaker for today. His name is Dushyant Gunashekhar. He's a very special human being because he's done something that very few people do. Dushyant is highly educated, professionally qualified chartered accountant. He has had a long career in the corporate world, and suddenly he decided that this is not what he wants to do. And he gave all that up and started Kriya, which is a very unique organization. And let me tell you a little bit about it quickly. But what I wanted to share about Dushyant is that he walked the talk. We usually talk about a lot of things. We complain that this is not right, that is not right. But he did something very few of us dare to do. That is, he decided to go after his passion. And for those who dare, there is always that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And today he is highly successful. Let me read a little bit from his LinkedIn bio. Dushyant started India's largest theatre in education collective. It works on taking theatre and performing arts to children. In the process, he has directed, created works for audiences as a director, playwright, author, actor, and producer for several live as well as digital productions. He co-founded Kriya Play, an edtech platform, which uses a mobile app that allows children to stage their stories with facilitation and feedback from master storytellers. Kriya Shakti and Kriya Play together have trained over 4,000 teachers and 4 lakh students over the last decade. And it has been instrumental in bringing over 200 live shows a year for students. The organization has also overseen creation of lesson plans and rubrics for theater-based learning across school levels, and also over 1,500 original play scripts useful for the school environment. My goodness, I mean, just reading that overwhelms me. A very warm welcome to you, Dushyant. I am spotlighting you. A very warm welcome to you, Dushyant.
Thank you.
I'm amazed at the huge amount of the body of work that your LinkedIn talks about. But before I start speaking to you, let me first introduce the topic of today, that is theatre in education. Why is this important for us to understand in the first place? Why is theatre something that is linked to education? And I will go with this to you, Dushyant. Please tell us why theatre? I know NEP talks about holistic education. I know we have often said that, you know, life does not happen after school. Life is school. But I mean, theatre and school educators, very few of us are trained in theatre. We don't know what to do with it. I mean, why should we have, CBSE always talks about music, art, physical education. And art, of course, includes theatre. But how do we kind of squeeze it in to our already extremely packed school curriculum? First, tell us, why is it important at all in the first place? Why should we even thinking about it? Over to you.
Firstly, thank you all so much. Nice to see all of you after the summer vacations. All of you seem very refreshed and ready to go for the year. And really honored to be the first speaker of such an illustrious platform, which I'm sure is going to be a huge help for educators across the world, if not just India, in the coming years. So I'm genuinely very honored. Thank you, Joyita ma'am, for that kind introduction. And to all my batchmates and the audiences out there, truly humbled by being here. I'll jump straight into your question. Why theatre in education? Firstly, I'm both excited and disappointed that this question is still being asked. I think, excited because I always get to speak about my passion through this one question. Disappointed because I feel by now, at least, it's 2022, uh, people should get around the fact that art education, especially a craft like theater, which does not need any instrument apart from just your body, mind, and voice, can scale to every single student inside the country, um, where other art forms are limited, perhaps. Why theater in education? I think predominantly, as you mentioned, school is life. The school life, or that 15 to 20 years of school education, is a quest for identity for the child, for the student. They are trying to find out who they are. They're trying to figure out what their voice is in the schematic of the community or the society that they're going to provide in. And in that context, a quest for identity matches itself very well, and a perfect tool to make sure that your identity is chiseled, both for yourself and your role in the schematic of society. Theater is a brilliant tool. It's a grammar that is adaptable and customizable for any particular setup. And as I mentioned before, the only instrument you need is your body, your mind, and voice that comes inbuilt, with every single one of us. So that's why I feel theater in education is very, very critical. It gives the ability to every child to stage their story and have their voice count. So that's why I think theater. And to mention NEP, you mentioned, I'm glad that finally there is some acknowledgement in national education policy for theater in education. It mentions an experiential learning, that all learning is ultimately experienced, not rote, in terms of what we've been taught over the many generations before. NEP suggests that all languages, all subjects even, maybe perhaps even social sciences, English, other languages, can have a story-based pedagogy itself. Ultimately, theater, we keep thinking about it just as the end product. I believe it's a wonderful process that has many applications. It can be a pedagogy. It can be a process of coming together for a community. It can be a performing art. It can be so much more. So that ability for it to take many shapes and chisel a person's identity accordingly and give them whatever it is that they need to find a voice is, I feel, why we need theater in education. So I hope that answers.
So suppose I was a principal. Let's play the devil's advocate here and just let us imagine for a moment that I am the principal of a school, already extremely hassled with the completion of syllabus and the squeezing in of the various different subjects that CBSE imposes on me. Suppose I don't follow this path. I don't listen to you. What will my children be missing out on? What skills do you think that a theater-based curriculum or a school that has theater as one of its mainstays can offer to its students, as opposed to maybe a school like mine, where I feel that, hey, he doesn't know anything about running a school. He's telling me that I should be doing all this, but my goodness, he doesn't understand that scarce resource, especially time, and children who are being forced, stuff is being rammed down their throats, and there simply isn't enough time and space for doing anything more. Suppose I decided not to.
So to answer your question,
my children miss out
to
on?
answer your question in 2 points. First, I'll answer the second part, which is what will your students miss out? Broadly, I believe theater, or we at Kriya believe there are 4 skill sets that are augmented through the skill of theater in education. We call it the CLAP skills, CLAMP. Ultimately, when you perform on stage, that's what you're vying for as well, for people to clap for you. And ultimately, those are the skills that kind of get augmented as well. C stands for cognitive and creative, L for language, A for effective behavior, and P for performance skills. All these 4 skills put together, we have also recognized there are also about 20 attribute sub-skills within these set of skill sets that we have. We, over our 10 years of experience, have recognized these sub-skills. And what these sub-skills ultimately do in a collective or on a holistic manner is to make every child be able to communicate in an effective manner right from the time there is a thought or an opinion in their mind, all the way till they communicate it to either an immediate audience or a crowd, as it may be. So I think that entire process of some kind of content germinating from their mind all the way till it is communicated to the other person, both verbally as well as non-verbally, because most of our communication is non-verbal as human beings. That entire process is facilitated in a very critical manner. And of course, is also studied and made sure that we improve different points of that entire process. It might seem like a very easy process, but if it were easy, then we wouldn't have a BCG report that tells us that 80% of our freshers coming out of college lack basic communication skills for the workspace. So irrespective of how technically trained we may be as a workforce, if we don't have the ability to speak with each other, which is very evident from our social media interactions, from our interactions in people within groups, the number of children who are not able to articulate their thoughts, especially in early adolescence, all the way up to college time or middle school time. In these tough times, it becomes a boiling pot for many other issues to crop up, including that of academic drop in academic excellence. So tying up my second part of the question to the first part, I would think that with the exception of time, which is something that is always going to be an issue for new initiatives, every other aspect in terms of academic improvement, understanding and ability of the child to take to studies are only augmented by the presence of theater. If you want to play Subhash Chandra Bose and play that character on stage and then quiz the child on whether what they know about Subhash Chandra Bose, that child will be able to answer about that particular freedom fighter much better as compared to a student who's been made to learn a chapter on that freedom fighter. And this has been proven by several studies to show that cognitive ability on a higher order skill sets are improved drastically through experience of content rather than just rote learning of it. So academic improvement is automatic. This one time, I completely agree with
communication, communication, confidence, also collaboration skills. You were saying,
yeah, all that. The 20%
leadership, teamwork.
Leadership falls under affective behavior, empathy, ability to work in teams. You know, so ultimately, all those you're mentioning all the sub skill sets that we have for ourselves. Performance, there is body language, gesticulation, how you are exactly poised when you are talking, how your intonation, pronunciation. There are so many facets to it, you know. So and it's not just the language. Sometimes that confusion is there that it augments only language learning. It augments several other things. So basic problem solving skills, which in a following activity which we have planned for you, you will find that on the spot quick thinking, which is lacking right now, is augmented through theater.
So the part of the country that I come from, Bengal, has a pretty long and rich tradition of theater. And if you look at Indian history, you will see Marathi theater, Tamil theater, Bengali theater, a very rich tradition in North India. So theater has been around in India for ages, right? Also, street theater is something that India has a long tradition in. Protest as a form of community protest. Excuse me, Mitra, can you please ask?
Yes, I'll do it.
Somebody is speaking at the background. Okay, so as I was saying, a lot of tradition is there in India of different kinds of theater, right? So is there something new? Because it's, as I was researching for this talk, I found out that all over India, this tradition of theater, especially a form of folk theater, maybe Chou in Bengal and, various other theaters in other parts of the theater forms in other parts of the country, have been around for centuries. So why is it, do you think, that it has disappeared from school education? Is because if you go far as a little bit back, you will see that in our ancient educational institutions, theater, martial arts, all of this was very much part of the curriculum. Yet today, when parents look for schools, and let me say this once more, when parents, we principals who are, fighting every day for admissions and admissions, because it's very important for the growth and perpetuation of a school. Please tell us, when parents look for schools, do they look for a school which has so many forms of creative arts, performing arts? Do they look for a school like that? Or do they look at results and see how many have cracked joint entrance examinations?
I can only tell you from personal experience.
When you are in education, how would you advise us to explain this to parents? Because obviously decision making for choosing a school is not going along those lines.
Well, I can only tell you from personal experience, while we are tied up with about 120 schools. And while it's still in its very nascent stage, or as you mentioned, disappear from the quotient of, again, two parts to the question. The first part, why did it disappear? Why is it